Hello and welcome to the new edition of Tangle BitZ. So, because it's February and you might be interested or in the mood for making some Christmas cards, I'm going to draw a version of Wave Up Tangle by Zentangle, but I will incorporate some hearts in it. So I'm starting with this really easy way to divide the tile in 8 more or less the same or similar spaces. So I start always with the diagonal lines, then they meet in the middle, and it's easier to add the horizontal and the vertical line. And now I will just go and, bravely grab my Micron PN pen because I'm going to draw without, doing anything with a pencil. The way we start Wave Up is by drawing these kind of seed shapes. So I will draw 4, and you can see that I am removing them from the center. You can also position them along the diagonal lines, but I decided to do it like this. And we'll see where it takes me. So you can see that my seed shapes are removed from the center, and the space is more or less the same size or length as the seeds themselves. But it's not something that you need to worry about. So just be relaxed and do it the way that, seems most reasonable to you. And now with Wave Up, we would do some round lines, but because I want to incorporate a heart shape, I will start by drawing this like top of the heart shape, and I will do it on the 2 opposite sides of this. So I'm starting with these. You can see we are going to finally create a heart here, but before we create a heart here, I will also draw these round shapes to connect the outer side of those same seed shapes. And now that we have these C lines, I can draw an aura line. So I'm just following the line that's already here, and I'm drawing a parallel line, which we call an aura line in Zentangle. And I will do the same for those C shapes on the outer side, but now it's going to be a little bit more demanding because it's a really long line. So if you feel uncomfortable to do it in one step, you can just do it in stages. So whenever you need to draw a long curvy line, it's recommended to do it in one step because you can not so easily continue doing it, from the same spot without losing this flow. And you can see here the line is imperfect, but I still did it very slowly, breathing all the way, not holding my breath. And now I will draw kind of an extension of these 2 lines in this inner part on both sides. So you can see that we have like 2 round or roundish or maybe ovalish shapes, and then I will draw the rest of the heart shape on each side too. So it's kind of looks like 2 hearts connected to each other with 2 rings, right? It looks really, it's fitting to the idea of the Valentine's Day. So maybe you will find this to be a good solution to incorporate in some of your cards. I will just ink in these seed shapes, and because I'm quite quick at drawing, at line work, don't compare yourself to me either by speed or the way your drawing looks like, because we all have our individual strokes, and all of our drawings have some of our characters. So, you know, I've been drawing intensively for years and years, and it might not be the same stage of the drawing journey that you are on. So be kind to yourself and just pause the video if you need more time. Don't rush to do it at my speed. Now I will just draw a few shapes. Oh, it's not flux, because flux, Zentangle, tangles, flux would be closed on this bottom side, while there's some space between the lines here, but it's almost flux. It's the most obvious choice, if you ask me, for filling this space. And I'm also inking these little spaces in. There is space to add some lines just to make it more intricate, and I will do the same on the opposite side. Of course, if you are drawn to creating a different kind of filler for this space, feel free to do whatever your heart desires and just enjoy it, you know. And the last one, I'm not yet sure what I will do with the heart shapes, and with this space here I might do something like let's say a Zen gem. So I'm basically rounding the shape, and then I will ink in these small shapes that are left on the sides. And with these hearts, I don't know, I don't feel yet ready to do it. I'm just adding some extra love to some of these lines, because it seems to me that they are not bold enough. Well, I like bold lines, but you might be more in favor of thinner lines, which is totally fine too. So to achieve some contrast between these hearts and round shapes and the space around it, I think that the space around would benefit most from some, let's say, bold shapes and a lot of inking in. So I want, you know, when somebody looks at this, to immediately see the wave up in the middle, and then later to maybe concentrate on some other interesting details. And this is why I'm adding now crescent moon, which is a very simple choice as well. And the way that it's shaded is that, you know, they have these ladybug shapes that are dark, and then you add more shades just along the lines of way bob, which is exactly what I think is the best way to add shades here. So this is why I decided to go with crescent moon shapes. And now I think I will add something very dramatic and dark here too. So I'm starting with a wavy line, and then I will just add some weight to it. And of course it will evolve into a diva dance Tangle by Zentangle. So I'm basically drawing oral lines, and then I'm adding some weighting or some blobs of colors, whatever you want to call that, to fill the space. And I think it's a nice filler for any kind of space. So I really love it. Hope that you will like it in this design too. but obviously you can choose to add anything else that you might find interesting. To do the inking in or filling in, so whatever speaks to your heart again. So this is quite repetitive, but it's the beauty of the Zentangle method, you know, doing these repetitive strokes without overthinking. And some decisions when you choose tangles maybe require some thinking, especially if you are doing more Zentangle inspired art. But you know, as at least it's in my case, as I became more experienced, I kind of am making those decisions quite intuitively as well. So I don't overthink things, or at least I try not to. And I think maybe also because of how much time I spent drawing and getting to know the method and the tangles, it certainly becomes easier as time goes by. I will just fill this with ink because I think it's nice to have really dark spaces next to these lines, because this is also where we will add some shades later. And now I will add something around the design, and I will start with a single teardrop shape, and then I'll just continue adding those. So it's basically Zentangle, Tangle, Eek, or at least one half of it, you know. I was starting at the top of my heart, or the bottom of my heart, whatever you want to call it, because it's, you know, obviously the part which I want to enhance. And then I'm just adding these Eek shapes as I move away from it, and then at the end inking in these little spaces. I might not even do the other part of the Eek, which would be on this side, so it's a mirrored. Again, the same loops I can show you in Tangle Legend book. So it's this kind of a border, you know, bordered Tangle Eek. So I did only one half of it. I will do another half of it, but I will see, you know, you never know. I might, you know, feel pulled to do it later. And starting with these new ones on the opposite side, trying to draw similar shapes, you know, in terms of size and shape, but I'm not obsessed about it. Obviously, going from the left or from the right to the left is not the most natural move for me. I'm just trying to make it work. Okay, it worked. I think I think that it worked. I'm just considering adding something else here, maybe just to kind of make it simple. Another crescent moon on each side. And then, of course, if you want to add something around this whole design, you can do it. Maybe you have a larger tile. So this is a bit smaller than the original Zentangle tile. It's a tile that I cut myself from, I think I will just add some orbs here, from some kind of a craft paper, and you can see that it's darker than Zentangle's Renaissance style too. So maybe you have a larger tile and you have more space to fill, or maybe your shapes are not as big as mine. So feel free to fill as much space as you want. I think I will stop here now and just do the shading and highlighting to finish this part for the video. Now for the shading, I will just add shades all around this part. So obviously I'm doing what we usually do in Zentangle. So when we draw these shapes that go over and under each other, we want to enhance that placement. So whenever one of these ribbons is disappearing below the other one, it's exactly where I want to place the shades to kind of enhance this placement and get more of a 3D appearance. And this is why I'm adding the shades right along all of these places where they go over and under each other. And I also want to add some shades where these crescent moons are disappearing below wave up. So it's the same thing. I want to enhance and kind of want to make these shapes that are above or over the other ones appear like that they're coming towards us, or they're jumping away from the paper towards the viewer. So this is my intention. I will add some also here. So again, I'm adding those shades along the edges of my wave up because I want wave up finally to just pop. And I will do the same inside these heart shapes. So I will add some shades where my Diva Dance lines disappear below the heart or beneath the heart or under. I'm not sure I'm using these words correctly, and I hope you understand me. So here I am adding these shades, and then of course I will take the blending stump and just blending it. And when I do the blending, I always try to hold my blending stump nested in my hand and then turn the tip of the blending stump towards the place where the shade is the darkest, which is exactly next to the line where I also applied the graphite pencil or whatever you are using. So I'm using here Cretacolor's Thunder Soft this time, which is oil-based. So it has all the qualities of the graphite pencil, meaning you can erase it, and you can blend it, but it's also quite dark and it doesn't have too much glare. So when I'm doing these videos, it's nice that I don't, or that you as a viewer don't see the glare of the graphite pencil, because you know, then I would need to hold my or have my paper under a different angle, which is not always the best solution for drawing. Okay, I discovered a little part which was not shaded, so I took my pencil again to do that, and you can see me rotating the tile all of the time. It's so that my tip of the blending stump is always turned towards the place where the shades are applied with my pencil. And you want to apply them as close to the lines, as close to the black lines as possible. So I'm going back and forth, trying to observe it and see that I haven't maybe forgotten about some of the spaces. I will go back with my pencil to apply just a little bit of shade also on the bottom side of each heart. So blending it again. And this will help my hearts to pop out and be the center of attention, hopefully. So just adding, and you can always go back and add another layer. So I want this to also have some kind of a 3D effect, and I will do this. So of course there are several ways to approach shading and highlighting of a Zen gem or whatever you want to call it. Now I applied some shade on one side and then later, and actually I will do the same on these other little orbs, so doing the same on each of them. It's kind of top left part of each of those orbs. Okay, so now it has already some more dimension, right? It looks kind of good. I might maybe add some more shade on these, or just prolong these shaded spaces. And this is where I will stop now, and I will do some highlighting. So there are really elaborate ways to shade and highlight these kinds of shapes, but I will do a simple and obvious one. I will add some highlights or some white pencil to the parts which are not shaded, and not all the way to the shades, because I will blend the highlights too. So you can see I'm using, by the way, General's charcoal white, but it's a long one, so it's a full pencil, not the small one that we usually use. It was just, you know, I grabbed it from my table, and I'm applying it because these shapes are quite narrow. I could try to make them more 3D, but they should be a little bit bigger to make it more, you know, the smaller the design is, the more simplistic approach to shading and highlighting should be, because, you know, there's no space to fit the highlights and shades really elaborate, you know, way of highlighting and shading if the spaces are small. So I am kind of I'm a person who tangles big, which makes shading and highlighting, I think, much easier. I don't think that I was aware of it when I started tangling big. It's just that the big tangles and bold lines appeal to me. So it really depends on what you prefer. You might be a tiny tangler. I will add some highlight to the opposite part of where I placed my shades in these orbs, and just carefully blend it. So this is also very, you know, simplistic way of doing it, because the shapes are tiny. And I will also add some to this top part of Zentangle's flux, and additionally to the top part of Crescent Moons. So, you know, most of these projects are not like basic Zentangle work according to the method, but where you would start with the corner dots and then do the border, and then after that use the strings. This is more like a Zentangle inspired art, which I mostly do, but still I like to use the tangles and stay as true to the method as possible without feeling like constrained by the rules. Obviously I do apply them, and I sometimes do the traditional Zentangle work, but not always. And I will also add some highlight, and you can see that I'm highlighting also over these ink blobs, but that's fine. This is just filler. I think it will give some more dimension like this when there's a little bit of shading on this top part. And now I will take the jelly roll. I have the jelly roll 10 here, and I will just apply some jelly roll, you know, shiniest highlights to some parts, and I'm just releasing pressure as I'm moving away from the part which I think should be highlighted most, and you might have a different opinion, so please just feel free to do this highlighting the way that you prefer. And if you like the way that I'm doing it, obviously you can just follow my lead. So I'm trying not to smudge this white pencil trace, white gel, well, gel, jelly roll trace. And I'm quite mindful about how I place my hand, which is usually on the same position right from the paper, and this is why I then rotate the paper so that I don't need to move my arm too much or my hand, and so that I don't smudge my drawing. So it's just easier, and it's most comfortable for your hand to be next to the paper in almost the same position all the time, and you want to ground it, really put it down on the table so that it's, you know, easier for you to have confident strokes. Because when your hand is away from the table, it's obviously much more difficult to do precise work. Oops, I went maybe a little bit over the line here, but that's fine. I can always just go over that with the black pen or pencil. Now it's not dry, so I'm going over that with my shading pencil. Okay, here it is. I think it's quite cute, right? I don't know if you like it. You can maybe just answer in the comment section and let me know maybe if there are some tangles that you would like me to draw in these short videos, or maybe not so short, I don't know. So I just added a few more dots with my white pencil, with my white gel pen, just to add some bling to it and add some interest to it. And I think that this is, you know, where I will stop now. If it was, you know, a typical traditional Zentangle work, I would add my chop somewhere here, but because it's kind of symmetrical, it seems to me that if I add my chop, it will just make it less balanced than it is now, which I might be wrong. So if you want to add chop, just feel free to add your chop wherever you feel it's best. But I think I'm finished. But now, as I'm saying that I'm finished, I might add just a little bit more highlight here to enhance this. You know, it's like a bridge over this ribbon. I think it will be nice if I add just a little bit more highlight. Maybe not with a gel pen, but at least with a pencil. And if you want to use the gel pen, that's fine too. So that's it for today. It was way bop, but you know, Valentine's Day version of way bop. And you can see, maybe I can show you, in my sketchbook I did several versions of way bop. So this would be similar, but you know, it's not the heart shape. And this is like a typical way bop, but with some aura lines or auras or whatever you want to. Maybe it also has some elements of rattan, and this is like way bop in some kind of a ribbon setting, or you know, in a line. So I hope that you liked my version of way bop, and maybe you will use it for some cards for your loved ones. That would be really cute if you know, to give somebody a handmade card. It's really special. So thanks for drawing with me, thanks for watching, tangling along, and I will see you hopefully soon. Bye.